Back on our Big Ten Media Day coverage presented by TIAA. You look at the three teams here with the head coaches who are going to join us in just a moment. Illinois coming off an Elite Eight last year. First since 2005. They won the Big Ten tournament. They topped Wisconsin in that tournament championship game. The Badgers have made 7 of the last 9 NCAA tournaments, including last year under two-time Big Ten Coach of the Year, Greg Gard. And then the Michigan Wolverines, Dusty May, the new head coach, took FAU to the Final Four 2 years ago, and now a son of the Midwest coming back to this area as the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. Great to have all three of the coaches of those programs with us. And as I mentioned, we've got the two coaches who squared off in the Big Ten championship game last year. I want to start with just an opening statement from each one of you. Just give us a big picture thought on your team heading into the year. Greg, you can start us off. What should we expect from Wisconsin?
Yeah, I think, well, the first thing is we got some returners that have helped stabilize our core, so to speak, with Max Klesman, Steve Crowell, and John Blackwell. And then we've added some pieces through the portal as well. But I like our group. I think we've got a lot of size. We've got a lot of depth, and it's been great competition so far in the first 7 days of practice.
Dusty, welcome to the Big Ten. Great to have you. Give us a sense of what we should expect from the Wolverines this year.
Well, it's great to be here. When you look at our roster, we were able to get guys out of the portal that come from winning programs. They've been well coached, and our freshmen have been real pleasant surprises as well. So we have a group that's fun to work with. We're big, we're skilled. We're a little bit different than all of our FAU teams, but it's a great group.
Brad?
Positional size and shooting. Two of the things we really tried to define in the portal. We lost a lot. There's no doubt about that. We've got a good mix of freshmen with a nice group of transfers, and got some veterans and Kylan Boswell. We've got a guy in Ty Rogers back. Those guys are going to have to lead us early, but a very, very talented group. I like this group in terms of their ability, but building on chemistry and something that we're going to have to work on as we move forward.
I want to dig in a little bit on each one of your teams. And Coach May, I'll start with you. I kind of hinted at it in the introduction there. You are from this area. You went to Indiana. You were a student manager at IU under Bob Knight. What does it mean to be back and coaching in the Big Ten, this league that I know you had followed closely growing up and certainly in your time in college?
My earliest memories were watching Big Monday and Super Tuesday. Those were the only exceptions to my curfew where I could stay up late watching hoops. So I'd been in Florida 9 years, so I was curious of how it was going to feel to be back in the Midwest. And immediately after landing in Ann Arbor, it just felt like I was home again. So I'm excited to go against such great coaches and storied programs. We were talking about before where every game is an event in the Big Ten.
You go to Bloomington on February 8th. I don't want to get too far ahead. I know there's a lot of time between now and then, but have you thought at all about what it'll be like to go out on that floor and coach against Indiana?
Once I saw the guys that Coach Woodson was able to get this year and the team they put together, I've tried not to think about that game.
That's fair enough. Brett, you guys played FAU, a wildly entertaining game last year at Madison Square Garden. So give Big Ten fans a little bit of a scouting report on what they should expect from a Dusty May coach team.
Well, Dusty's FAU team was as tough as anybody could get. I mean, they were very, very tough-minded. They played fast. They were extremely skilled offensively. Great balance inside and outside. Obviously, Vlad has made the transition to Michigan. He'll be one of the better centers, better bigs in the country, as well as this league. So extremely well coached. You don't get to a Final Four without that. And very, very talented offensively. They were a team that scored the ball in so many ways, but was so challenged by how tough they were, and I know Dusty's going to bring that to Michigan.
Dusty, I think you'll be happy to know Marcus Damask no longer on Illinois' team. Terrence Shannon no longer on Illinois' team either, because I know they were awfully good. And they took you guys to heights that you haven't seen in quite some time, Coach. I mentioned first time you guys made the Elite Eight. First time Illinois made it out of the first weekend since 2005, and to get as far as you did. What did that mean for the program, really, to put some of that stuff to rest and to say, hey, this is a program that can be right there on the next to last weekend competing in the deepest parts of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and there's no doubt it was a step. We had a great team a few years ago. We were 1 seed and got upset, and I think that's the beauty of the tournament. I think it was more media driven, the concerns and fans maybe than I was. I just felt like we have to keep getting back there. We had a great team last year in terms of character and toughness, and we were an old team. We hit the portal and got some veterans, and so that team had a maturity about it. But there's no doubt. I thought we were a Final Four team that just happened to lose to UConn in the Elite Eight, and they were very, very good. And I thought we were a team that had a chance. But no doubt it was great. We're not satisfied. The Elite Eight's a great step, but we've got 2 more we would like to play, and we've got to keep striving to get there.
Greg, I want to talk to you a little bit about the perspective that you bring, just because of the amount of time that you've spent in this league, not just the head coach at Wisconsin, but starting with Bo in 2001.
Right.
So when you got into the Big Ten, this was an 11-team league. Now
it's almost doubled.
Now it's an 18-team league, yes. It's significantly different. And so how does it, first of all, how does it change your approach as a head coach when you're dealing with an 18-team league versus an 11-team league?
Yeah, I don't think the approach changes, so to speak, but understanding, like you mentioned, this is my 24th year in the league, and watch the evolution and the growth of it. And I've kind of coined the term, there are no get-well games. So no matter where you play, who you play, when you're playing them, you better lace them really tight. And that's what we found, that the parity across the league has grown immensely, and there's been great battles, whether you're at home or whether you're on the road. There used to be places you could show up and, make a couple layups and you're going to get out okay. But now every single night it's a battle. So from that standpoint, just approaching it one game at a time. And as you grow and battle through the league, everybody's going to go through some ups and downs. Everybody's going to experience some good times, and just who can persevere through that over a 20-game stretch.
What do you attribute that to? Why do you think that the league has so many more competitive teams than maybe it did when you and Bo got there?
Well, it's got to give credit to the Big Ten Network, right?
That's not the first place I would have gone.
That's a great answer, Greg.
We'll take shameless plug.
Okay.
I think just how the league has expanded. Obviously, the coaches and the players, the national scope of our league has grown. Now we're coast to coast, and I think we're the most powerful league in the country. So for all those things have added to it. I don't think there's been one single element that's made the difference, but it has changed immensely since we started in 2001.
I want to talk to you a little bit about your team, and one thing that really stood out last year was you got a lot better offensively.
Right.
And you're going to be new. You have a new point guard this year. Give us some insight into whether it's Freitag or Hunter or some combination of those guys or someone else. Like, what can we expect out of that position? Because I think felt like that was part of where you've started to make a jump.
Yeah, I think we've increased the pace of play a little bit, and we've become more efficient. I think we've tweaked some things to evolve with how the game has changed, and we've recruited specifically to that shift and that change. So from a point guard position, it could be, you mentioned Daniel Freitag, a freshman, Cameron Hunter, who we got out of the portal, Kamari McGee, who's a returner for us that missed a fair amount of time last year with an injury, has played well, and I've used even John Blackwell some at the point. So for us, much like Brad said, positionally, I don't get really consumed with numbers, whether you're a 1 or a 2 or a 3. I like size, I like skill, and depth, and I think we've got all 3.
Brad, you have a ton of new faces. You only have one player back who averaged more than 3 points per game, and yet you guys are picked toward the very top of the league. And Robbie Hummel and I were talking about this on the schedule release day, and it almost seems like you enjoy kind of this putting together a new roster every year and fitting the pieces together, and then, as we know, you're willing to adjust kind of how you play in midseason and figure out what works best for your team. What are the particular challenges, and what do you like about kind of having a new group every year?
I guess it goes back to my junior college upbringing, where you've got 8, 10 new guys every year, and you have to figure it out and put those pieces together. But I say this, and this sounds crazy, I like to win. And so if we're doing something that starts that we don't like, we're going to not be afraid to change it. And I think that's one of the things that I feel very comfortable with, is making those changes. We got to, a system last year where we were able to maximized Marcus, as a power forward at Southern Illinois, became our lead guard and found a way to play to be successful. But and the basis hasn't changed. We still want to play fast. We still want to play effective on the offensive glass. Just the little tweaks here and there are what take place. But this group's different, and we've been very, very specific in positional size, who can shoot it. Those are things that we're continuing to look for, is keep trying to find mismatches and advantages as easily as we can.
Dusty, you guys were in the portal quite a bit, obviously by necessity, and I think that's kind of, especially when you take over a program in this day and age, that's just what's going to happen. In terms of piecing your group together, kind of what were the priorities that you set out when you said, how am I going to assemble this team?
Very similar to these guys. We were looking for positional size. We brought in great skill and a lot of size. We're going to play Danny Wolf at the 4, who's 7 feet. We'll have Sam Walters playing on the perimeter, who's a 6'10" shooter. And then our guards are all big. But we felt like in this league, we needed physical guards with good speed and then positional size up front. So we have great versatility. The lineups are going to look a lot different game by game. But we're excited, like Coach Underwood, to put these pieces together.
What does it mean to be able to have Wolf and Vlad on the court at the same time, to have two guys with that kind of size?
Well, we should be able to control the glass much better, and we should be able to find matchups. And anytime you have that type of size, you can play over the top with your passing, and they're able to stretch the floor as well. We'll be able to put 4 shooters on the court at all times. Our guards can all make plays off the bounce and shoot it from deep. So we want to be a challenge to guard and also be able to protect the paint and take away the other team's threes.
I want to leave you all with the same question, and you can kind of work your way down the line. And I can start with you, Greg, because I think one of the players who would really stand out in this category to me from where we sat last year was John Blackwell, a player who maybe people weren't necessarily talking a ton about in the preseason and ended up having a great year. So who is that player on your roster that people might not know a whole lot about right now, might not be getting headlines, who you think at the end of the year people could be talking about?
I think Nolan Winter, a sophomore who got a little bit of time, not as much as John got last year, but just watching freshmen go from freshmen to sophomores and the experience that they can take from that handful of minutes they got as a freshman and how they use that in the offseason to improve their body, improve their game. Much like Dusty, I'm able to play, 2 7-footers together in Steve Crowell and Nolan Winter. And for Nolan to take the jump he has, he's still got a ways to go, but we really like what we see from him so far.
Dusty?
The guys, Reuben Jones has been a real pleasant surprise for us. Trey Donaldson out of Auburn. Those guys have won a lot of basketball games, and we're excited to see how they mesh together with the bigger guys up front. But like I said, everyone we brought in from the portal came from a winning program, so it's on us to put them together and utilize them.
Brad, who should we be talking about?
Ben Humerkaus, a young man, started at NAI school for 3 years. Went to Evansville. Been a huge and very, very pleasant surprise. Very, very gifted shooter. I've got a group of 3 freshmen that I'm very excited about to see their growth. They're probably the most talented freshmen that we've had on our campus, and so we'll see it. I think all those guys have an opportunity to really affect our play.
Brad Underwood, Dusty May, Greg Gard, thanks a lot, guys. Best of luck this year. Really good to visit with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we continue our Media Days coverage, Michigan State, Oregon, Penn State. Here's the story for each of those 3 programs. Michigan State's 26 straight NCAA tourney appearances under Tom Izzo. It's the longest streak in Big Ten history. Oregon won the Pac-12 tourney last year, about to enter season number 15 under Dana Altman. Second year for Mike Rhoades at Penn State. They returned the second highest percentage of minutes of any program in the Big Ten, including 5 of their top 7 scorers back. And we are pleased to have Tom Izzo, Dana Altman, Mike Rhoades with us here. I would usually start with Tom. We kind of defer to him in this league, Dana, due to his seniority. But I'm going to start with the new guy, right? Are you comfortable with that, Tom?
I love it.
Okay. Just a quick overview on your team. I want from each one of you guys just kind of a modified opening statement on what we should expect this year.
Well, we've got a full roster. Everybody's healthy now, which is a change for us. The last 4 years have been kind of rough on our health, but I like our age. We've got an old ball club. We brought in some grad transfers that give us some experience. A couple of the guys we've played against, T.J. Bamba was at Washington State. Brandon Angel was at Stanford, so we have a pretty good idea what they're going to do. We got 3 starters back. 2 guys started as freshmen, Jackson Shelsta, KJ Evans. So I like our competitiveness in practice, and right now we're healthy, and if we can stay that way, I like our depth.
Coach Rhoades, how about your program?
Yeah, just excited for these 5 seniors who returned. So we got some experience. We went through the Big Ten landscape last year, and those the valuable experiences moving forward. I think we addressed our needs. We got bigger, Big Ten bigger, and we got some depth. So taking the next step, chasing these guys for sure. But that's the fun of it all.
How about you guys, Tom?
Well, I think we have some depth this year. We had some injuries last year too, as a lot of people do, and so I think our depth is the positive side of it, but the depth is the negative side of it too. I need 1 or 2 players to step up and be above that, and I'm hoping that Jaden Akins is one of those guys.
Dana, one of the big stories, maybe the biggest story in the league this year, is the expansion. Obviously, 4 new programs. We've talked a lot, and I think we spoke last year even about kind of what this was going to mean hypothetically kind of moving forward for the 14 programs already in the league. What does it mean for your program, though? What does it mean for one of the 4 programs that's entering the Big Ten? How does it change Oregon basketball?
Well, there's a lot of tradition in the Big Ten. Obviously, the Pac-12 had some tradition with UCLA, Arizona. We've had some good programs. We've had a good stretch. But the Big Ten with Indiana with great tradition, Michigan State, Michigan, Purdue, there's a lot of tradition over here. And so we're excited about that. We're excited to be involved with that. Tom and I were just talking about the trips, those 5 road trips in January, February, March, and we're not used to having weather problems on the West
we don't
Coast.
have weather programs.
So that may disrupt our travel a little bit more. But, no, it's a big change for us, but one our fans are looking forward to, and our program is also.
Well, there's a lot of change in college sports in general, and one of the in-season tournaments this year that's going to be kind of emblematic of it is this Players Era tournament that's going on in Vegas that you guys are one of the programs that is a part of. There's an NIL contribution that goes along with it. What does being involved in that mean for Oregon?
Well, it's a new concept, and it's changing our game, but I've had to adjust. I drug my feet on it a little bit, but I had to realize if I was going to stay in the game that I had to adjust, and then NIL is a big part of it. None of us have unlimited funds, and so being part of this tournament helps our collective. We were able to give our players, extra money because of the tournament. And it's just a reality of where the game's at today. And as I mentioned, I drug my feet on it for a couple of years, but it is what it is. And I knew if I was going to stay in the game for a while that I had to adjust. And our program had to adjust, our collective, everyone. And so it's part of the game now. And we look forward to the challenge. We're playing 3 really good teams, Texas A&M, San Diego State, Creighton. So it's a good tournament. Vegas is easy for us to travel to, so it's a good situation for our program.
Tom, you guys have a in-season tournament. We'll be playing some pretty good teams in Maui as well. But I actually want to talk to you. I was looking through your schedule. It doesn't seem quite as masochistic as it normally is for someone like you in the non-conference. But there's one game that really jumped out at me, and that was your exhibition game at Northern Michigan. The fact that you're going back to the UP and playing at your alma mater. What does that game mean to you?
It means pasties for a pregame meal. I can't wait till my guys start chewing on that for a while. But you know what? I thought about it last couple of years. I always talked to my buddy Mariucci, which I was trying to get him in, but he's working on the NFL Network, so he won't make it. But it's just kind of back to reality. It's going to be good. We're playing in one of the world's largest domes. Wooden domes, I should say, and we always play an exhibition game, and so I said, why not go up there and I'm going to take my guys through a lot of the places that we started at. I know you guys will laugh, but I think you'll agree. You know, I think we do have a more entitled student athlete. I'm going to bring him and show him where it wasn't entitled, and hopefully that'll bring a little wisdom to him.
Does video still exist of the last game that Michigan State played there, where a young Tom Izzo in 1974 had 6 assists and 5 rebounds?
Yeah, man, that was my first college start. Michigan State came up there. Gus Kanakis was good friends with my head coach, Glenn Brown, and hard to believe that was that many years ago, but I don't know if any video. I don't know if we took video then, to be honest with you. Hell, cell phones and TV just came up there a few years ago, so we're, but we're going to have some fun with it, and yet hopefully a good cause and do some different things and charity things, and I think it'll all be good.
Like, you need to follow suit. You need to get Lebanon Valley on your schedule.
Well, we're going there to play there in a couple weeks against Lafayette. So, we're going to play
in the area.
Yeah,
yes.
We'll get back to my alma mater, and the facilities are a lot nicer now than when I played there. That's for sure, and probably the pregame meals are too.
I'm interested to ask you. You guys have the Palestra game, the annual Palestra game, which you're doing again this year, which has just been amazing. I got a chance to call one of them a number of years ago. It's one of the most memorable experiences in my broadcasting career. But you also had the Rec Hall game last year, which was amazing. You guys pulled out an incredible win. The atmosphere was great. How much discussion has there been about making that an annual?
Yeah, it's. I try to make it an everyday discussion with our administration, but it was a great environment. Turning back the clocks for a lot of alums, a lot of fans and supporters. So we're going to continue our administration. Like, we want to be outside the box. That's what we keep talking about for us to move forward in this league and to chase these guys. Like I said earlier, we got to think outside the box and playing a game at Rec Hall. Great environment on top of the court, old school, sort of like double knot your shoes and let's go to work. And it was a hot gym, a hot arena. And everybody walked on the campus, and it was a great night. And we're going to continue to try to replicate that and the Palestra game as well, and just keep thinking outside the box to keep promoting our program.
You know what's bad, Dave?
What's that?
We played there when it was inside the box. That was the only place we played.
Right.
And that means I've been here a few years. But I remember one of the last games there, Judd fell and tripped as he was giving the pregame talk, because the pregame talk, the showers and the bathrooms were all within about a 5-foot area. It was awesome, and then we happened to get a chance playing the Palestra too. I mean, yeah. I think those things are really cool. Not to help you recruiting, but I do think they're really cool.
Yeah, you thought about going back to Jenison at all?
We did that one time a few years ago, and I'd do it again. I think like Mike said, all these things that are a little bit outside the box.
Yeah.
Bring back your fans, bring back your alums. They enjoy it, and it brings a little levity to the players that, Magic Johnson played here. Why it was good enough for him, why not good enough for you?
Right. Mike, you guys, we were talking about this at the outset when we were talking about all the roster turnover and kind of how this is the reality, particularly when you take over a new program as you did last year. And you guys really it was amazing. I mean, you returned less than 5% of your scoring last year, and you ended up winning 9 games. What did you learn about kind of how your philosophy and style of play translates to the Big Ten, and what can you kind of carry forward?
Well, number one, it helped me. We have to be different. We have to be different the way we play, the way we approach it, and being different is we got to take great pride in that. So play a little differently than the rest of the league, and our approach is going to be different. And for us, we got to create a lot of possessions in the game. And if the game becomes quarter court offense and quarter court defense against Penn State, I always say we'll get bludgeoned. So we got to be different, and so we got to be bold about that too, and not not be apologetic for it at all. I mean, this is who we're going to be, and for us to move forward. And we had signature wins last year. We had some great momentum to build on, but now let's see if we could take another step.
Tom, talking about taking another step, I'm interested in your sophomore class. You were saying in your opening statement, hey, we need some guys to take a step forward. And we saw certainly from Xavier Booker last year, we saw some moments. I realized that, you know, it was a ton of hype that surrounded him, and it was a challenge for him maybe to adjust. Konkar, we saw the explosiveness, and then Fears had a terrible and you know, tragic incident that obviously, thankfully, he came through. But tell me about each one of those guys and maybe the jump that they could make this year.
Yeah, you know, I really do. I don't apologize for it. I think sometimes rankings create problems for kids. I think, you know, Book has went from 217 to 240. So he's got, and it's all good weight. He's gotten stronger. I think he's a player that has got tremendous skills and tremendous measurements, but you still got to have, you know, you still got to play the game. I think in Cohen Carr, he is one of the best athletes in the country, but, you know, you've got to become better offensively, which he is, better defensively. I think he's become. And poor Jeremy, you know, only played in a few games, and so he's a freshman all over. But I still think the class is as good as it was ranked. I think it maybe just takes a little while longer. And if it does, all I care about is the results at the end.
Dana, I mentioned off the top, you guys had some really good late-season momentum last year. You won the Pac-12 tourney. Maybe it's a silly question at this day and age because the rosters do turn over, but you guys bring back a fair amount. So can you carry momentum from a season, the end of one season, into another season in this day and age?
Well, it'd feel a lot better if we were bringing Dante back with that group.
Yeah.
But, you know, Dante and Jermaine kind of fueled that run at the end of the year, which seniors do. We got healthy. We'd been banged up all year, and we got a little healthier at the end of the year and made a nice run. But, no, I think our guys bringing 3 starters back and a couple others that made contributions to the team, I think those things carry over a little bit. Their expectations go up, you know, when you have some success at the end of the year. So, as Tom mentioned, you know, it's hard on freshmen because they're playing against guys that are so much older right now, you know, and that's hasn't been worked into the formula. They, you know, it's hard for them when they're going against 22, 23, even 24-year-olds as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old. So, you know, it's been hard on freshmen the last couple of years because of COVID and because of all the old guys. That will change next year, you know, when we go back to 4 classes instead of 5. But, you know, our freshmen did step up last year. Hopefully they'll make that jump that traditionally a lot of freshmen and sophomores have made. And if they do, you know, that gives us some real good momentum because Jackson started all year. He was out a few games with injuries, but KJ started most of the year. Mookie was hurt all year, but those 3 guys, you know, like Tom said, the rankings don't mean nothing, but ranked pretty high, and hopefully they'll make a big jump.
Closing statement from each one of you. I want to ask you each to answer the same question. One thing you're most looking forward to coaching this team, Coach Rhoades.
Year 2, it's not year 1, for sure. Just having a group of guys that, you know, are building on our work of culture. It's been a lot of fun coaching these guys so far.
Dana?
Working with a lot of old guys. You know, I enjoy their maturity. I think a lot of the guys came here, haven't been in the NCAA tournament, haven't experienced the success they want to experience. So hopefully they'll have a team mentality, and it's not an individualized sport.
Tom?
You know, I'm looking forward to still making another run. You know, that's what I keep talking to my guys this summer. We went to Spain, and I think we got a lot out of that. And, you know, now it's going to be, can we get off to a decent start? And as these guys said, I think the big problem now is there's a lot of injuries. I mean, we played them 2 years ago, I think it was, and they had injuries, and guys got injured in our game. You had 2 big guys get injured during the game, and you were already down. You might have had more injuries. I hope you don't bring that to the Big Ten, by the way, Dana. But everybody's got to stay healthy, and I'm just looking forward to – I like my team. I like the chemistry, the camaraderie. I like the culture, which is hard to keep in this day and age.
Great to visit with all 3 of you. Really looking forward to watching all 3 of your teams play this season. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Here is the story for Rutgers, UCLA, and Maryland this year. You see the Scarlet Knights embarking on year 9 under Steve Pikiell, less than 18% of his minutes back from last year. But, oh, by the way, he is 2 of the top 3 freshmen in the nation, according to 247 Sports. Mick, Cronin, and UCLA, they return a ton of production, and they have a top 10 portal class. And Maryland, speaking of star freshman, Derek Queen, one of the top 10 players in the country coming in. They bring back the outstanding Julian Reese as well under third-year coach Kevin Willard. And those three gentlemen join me now. Steve Pikiell, Mick Cronin, Kevin Willard. Welcome, guys. I want to get an opening statement, as I've done from each one of the coaches just on your team. Kevin, why don't we start with you and tell us what to expect from the Terps?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I really like the additions we added. Obviously, Derek Queen's a talented freshman. I think the biggest thing that we addressed in the portal was, obviously we struggled to shoot the basketball last year. And so everyone that came in through the portal and transfers were guys that can make shots. And excited about this team. They're a great group, still trying to get to know them, trying to figure out first names every once in a while. But for the most part, we brought guys in that can shoot, that could help complement Julian Reese and Derek Queen.
Mick?
Well, still trying to figure out who's who. We got 8 new guys. This is going to be every year, by the way, right? I mean, this is just the reality of the new portal era. So, we were able to this is crazy, Steve. You add a senior leader. You ever think you can get a guy, and we need a senior leader, and you can go get one in Kobe Johnson in the portal. Obviously, it's similar with Kev. We didn't shoot the ball well enough. We didn't score at the rate we needed to score last year. So hence all that points per game stuff. And then we needed to address Adem Bona going to the NBA, which he did a great job for us and was an all-league player. So we addressed that with William Kyle and Tyler Bilodeau.
Steve?
Well, we added 4 great coaches and 4 great programs. So a great league, became 18 deep. I felt good until you mentioned the 18% returning for my team. So I thought, practice has been good. We're undefeated right now. But, I'm year 9, so I'm excited about that. And we have a lot of new transfers. We did the same thing. We needed to get some guys that can shoot the ball. But I was really focused on getting toughness, like guys that were tough. And I think we brought in, some toughness guys and obviously, some talented freshmen that I'm very excited about. They can do a lot of things, multi-position guys. All 5 of them will play. And, we're just in the great league with great coaches, and you fight every day and try to get better and stay healthy.
I want to talk to the two of you about your history together. You spent time on Rick Pitino's staff at Louisville. So, Mick, I'll let you go first.
You see our reactions.
Describe the nature of your relationship there and how it's continued as you both embarked on being head coaches.
Well, we both had hair when we started at Louisville. Look, first of all, Coach Pitino's the best. So you got 30-something head coaches. But it is literally a training ground. So, and he's not messing around. So we spent a lot of early mornings together. Kev taught, I didn't drink coffee. He's like, you got to learn how to drink coffee if you're going to work for Coach Pitino. So, and then he told me, when we start playing at lunch, make sure we foul each other really hard when Coach Pitino's watching, so he won't start playing with us. We don't need him down here. So if he just started telling me, foul the hell out of me, foul the hell out of me. So, there's not enough time here for all the stories.
No, I mean, I came from the Boston Celtics, and I spent 4 years in the NBA and jumped over to college. And I was very lucky to have Mick. Mick really took me under his wing about the recruiting aspect, what to do. He actually gave me, he gave me a number one day, one of my first days on the job. He said, hey, I need you to call this kid. I think we have a real good shot at him. And I had no idea. So I called the high school coach. I talked to the high school coach. The high school coach is like, hey, Kev, I really appreciate you calling, but do you know this kid's probably going to be the first pick in the draft? I had no idea. And the guy goes, yeah, it's, LeBron James. And he's sitting over there laughing his you-know-what off, and he's just egging me on. He said, keep asking me questions. And so I always say, like, I recruited LeBron James really hard.
Yeah. That's a good tip. Yeah. He should have closed the deal.
And we've been friends ever since.
Oh, yeah. That's a beautiful story. Hey, I want to know a little bit about UCLA basketball. I mean, you talk about synonymous with it's the winningest in terms of national championships, winningest program in the history of college basketball. So UCLA comes into the Big Ten. Like, how does it? What does it mean for UCLA basketball? How does it change? Does it change what you do, or do you just continue doing what you do and play different teams?
Yeah, well, look, when you take the job at UCLA, you have to try to you have to go in knowing, look, my job is to try to compete for national championships. You have to embrace the expectations. So I ran towards that, and I continue to do so. And it's an honor of my lifetime to have been the coach at my alma mater at Cincinnati, and now at the most storied program ever at UCLA. So that's just the reality that we're in at UCLA. So it's, for me, being in the Big Ten, I think I'm like the Grim Reaper, Dave. You know, when I was in the Big East, it broke up. Yeah, I mean, you know, whatever league I'm in, it breaks up. So now, you know, then the Pac-12 breaks up. So, no, it's, look, to be with for coaches, it's just another challenge.
Yeah.
Right? To get a chance to coach against, well, not this guy, but, you know. We're like family, man. So, you know, it's like the rest of the guys, you know, it's just a great challenge. It's cool. Obviously tough for some of the honest answer is, you know, for Don McLean, who's here working with Fox and a lot of, you know, Kareem and a lot of the guys, it's hard for them to get their head around it. But times change, and you got to roll, you know, we're from California, man. You got to ride the waves.
I don't want to jinx it, but I think that your run of breaking up leagues is going to end here.
I hope so.
I feel like this one's on fairly solid footing.
I hope so.
So, Coach, I need the anticipation for this season at Rutgers is off the charts. I mean, it's the most anticipated season in Rutgers basketball history, and so much of it.
Well, Dave, I mean, sorry, Coach, I'm trying to defend you. I mean, why don't you make it a little harder on me?
So much of it surrounds, in a positive way, so much of it surrounds Dylan and Ace. And so what have you said to them about handling that, about handling this spotlight, about handling the expectations and everything that comes with it?
You know, those two kids, they're from great families. They're basketball players. I want them to have fun first and foremost. You know, Rutgers Nation has been great. We've sold out 63 straight games at home, so the fan base has been tremendous. Our leadership with Jeremiah Williams and Zach Martini, a couple new players, has been great for the younger guys. But, you know, I'm excited about that. You know, I'm excited about the expectations. We always had high expectations. And now in a league with 18 teams, like, you know, people are saying, how good are you? You know, like, there's 18 teams. They're great coaches. With great, I don't know where so if you came to our practice yesterday, you would say, oh, boy. And if you came a couple of days early, you might think, hey, they're going to be pretty good. You know, so we're trying to figure out some of that stuff. But, you know, New Jersey's a great state. Rutgers is a great university. And we play in the greatest league in the country. And now we've added 4 historic programs. So, you know, it's just going to get better. It's going to be a fun year.
Kevin, you, as I hinted at earlier, and you mentioned him in your opening statement, you have a great freshman, too, in Derek Queen. Kind of the same question, but, like, he gets paired with Julian. So what's that going to look like in the front court? How do those two mesh? And what have you said to Derek about
Yeah, I mean,
all this?
I think, you know, Derek's comes from a great family too. He's got a great group of people around him. He's wise beyond his years. And I think one of the biggest things was Derek was really excited to play with Julian, because Julian is, in my opinion, one of the best centers in college basketball. So he was excited not only to play with him but to learn from him. And so far in practice, Derek's like a sponge. You know, he asked Julian questions. What do I do here? What should I do here? What's my counter move? And they really worked really well together. We have really high expectations for Derek, and I think Derek has really high expectations for himself. So embracing those expectations and saying, hey, this is who he is, this is what we're trying to do. But he has been great, and Julian has been a phenomenal leader. They're both from Baltimore. They both, they played a little bit together in AAU in high school. So Julian's been great in taking him under his wing and saying, hey, this is the way we do things, this is how you do, this is how we act. And Derek's been great with it.
Mick, your roster additions are really impressive, and you brought back a lot from last year. A lot of people are picking you guys toward the very top of the league. When we visited, I was on campus in the spring, and you were telling me about kind of the challenge of, hey, how do we balance what we've got and go out and find the right players in the portal? What was that balancing act in terms of filling the holes you felt like you needed to fill, and you mentioned shooting and being better offensively, which clearly was an issue last year. But kind of where do you think you've made the most improvement?
We got older. You can't, you know, I feel for Coach Pikiell here. He's going to try to win with some young guys, but they're lottery picks, so you got a shot. You know, like we were just not old enough last year. And the reality of college basketball, we need to get older, and we needed a leader. And Kobe Johnson's a huge addition for us. I'll be shocked if he's not an all-league player, you know, when it matters in the postseason, when the votes are tallied up. He's a winner. He defends. He's as good a defensive player as I've ever coached. And I coached a National Player of the Year 2 years ago defensively in Jalen Clark. So you know, we needed him right away. And then we added a lot of scoring, Sky Clark and multiple other guys in the portal, Tyler Bilodeau. So now he's got to put it together. You know, it's almost like you know, the Yankees. You get to go out and get a whole bunch of free agents and figure it out. So we're in the process of that, trying to develop some winning habits. But I like the fact that we're more talented. I like the fact that we're older. Now we just got to become a team that knows how to win.
Kevin, last year, kind of similar situation. You weren't a great shooting team. How have you looked to?
That's like the nicest way someone's put it so far.
The coach was the best shooter.
Yeah.
How have you addressed that?
We were dead last year. It's like, hey, this is great. You know, we got older too. I think we had 5 freshmen on the roster last year. We played 3 freshmen over 25 minutes, which in this league I learned very quickly is a good way to lose a lot of close games. And I think the biggest thing for us was, like, I looked at, I have a great center. We have an incoming big guy coming in. We just got to put guys around them that are a little bit older, are going to enjoy throwing the ball in the post because they're going to get it back out. Jacoby Gillespie from Belmont was one of the guys that early on that we saw in the portal that was, you know, we lost Jameer Young. We lost someone that scored 1,200 points in 2 years for us. I needed a guy that wanted to come in and take over that leadership role, take over the minutes role. Jacoby's there. And then I wanted someone, we needed another guard. Last year we were just 1 guard short. You know, we lost 7 games by 3 points or less, and everything was on Jameer. So Selton Miguel for us was a guy from South Florida that is a guy that can go get a bucket. You know, you don't have to run a play. Last year everything was manufactured. And when you have freshmen, as Steve's going to find out, sometimes you have to manufacture everything. A guy like Selton, Jacoby, just give him the ball and get out of the way. And that's sometimes, as a coach, that's the best feeling you can have.
Final thought from each one of you, and I'll ask you all the same question. What excites you the most about this year ahead?
I mean, this league always excites me. Going on the road, now adding UCLA trips to USC and Oregon and Washington. I mean, there's great camaraderie in this league. These coaches can flat out coach. I mean, Mick, I was at Stony Brook, and I think they threw the ball up at Cincinnati, and about 3 minutes later, I was telling the refs, keep this clock running because I got to get on this bus and get home. Like, the game was over. He was tough and physical and those kind of things. And to add the caliber of coaches and programs to an already great league, and the venues now off campus is just – it's going to be exciting, and I'm excited for Rutgers and what we can be this year. And that's the new part of having all the new players and all that. You know, like, you start off that year saying we could be great, and we can be. So I'm excited about that challenge.
Mick?
Well, for the 3rd time, I'm in a league with Rutgers. That's the most exciting thing. So the Big East, the American, you know, and now the Big Ten. So I get to go back to the RAC for the 3rd, you know, in the 3rd league. So
I hate that place.
But yeah, I mean, look, for me, I'm the basketball coach at UCLA, and I'm the only one person on earth that can say that. You know, I turn left on Sunset Boulevard to go to work, Dave. Then that's how I look at it. And I do it with a lot better players this year. So I you know, it's a lot of pressure. I understand that. We have high expectations at UCLA to try to get the 12th banner up there, but there's nothing I'd rather be doing. So, you know, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm excited about our team. Obviously, you know, we got all these new ingredients, but I turn left on Sunset, my friend.
So you're excited about the drive to work. You're the one person who's excited about the commute in L.A.
Yeah, sandals and shorts and sun in January.
You need to come jump on the belt.
You can have it, brother.
The belt
you can
is
have the
undefeated.
Parkway, and you can have the belt.
Yeah.
While I'm turning left and Bel Air's on my left.
Yeah, you were one lucky guy.
We'll give you the last word, Kevin. What excites you the most on this?
I actually, kind of what Steve said. I think this conference, a lot of people have talked about, you have to go out west, they have to come out east. I think we're very lucky the fact that we can play basketball from coast to coast. We hit Chicago in between. Our players are really excited to go coast to coast. I think it's something that's really unique, and I think it's something that I think the presidents and everyone that did this and got everyone involved in these new teams out west, I think it's really exciting for everybody. And I think we're going to prove that we're the best, by far the best college basketball conference in the country.
That's a good way to finish. Kevin, Willard, Mick, Cronin, Steve Pikiell, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Welcome back to Big Ten Men's Basketball Media Day, presented by TIAA. Nebraska coming off its first NCAA tournament appearance in a decade. A change at USC. Eric Musselman, the new head man, adding 11 transfers in the offseason. That's the most in all of Division I. Indiana Hoosiers set to start their 4th season under Mike Woodson. You talk about a transfer offseason, 3 of the top 5 Big Ten transfers coming out of the portal and landing in Bloomington. And with that in mind, welcome in the head coaches of those teams, Fred Hoiberg, Eric Musselman, Mike Woodson, kind enough to join us. Fred, I want to start with you. You made it public last week that you're going through what you termed a, quote, minor procedure. Obviously, I know you well enough to know you take everything humbly, especially when it's about you, but folks do want to know how you're doing. You look great.
Well, thanks, Rick. Great socks, by the way.
Thank you.
I feel really good. It was a procedure on Friday to replace my pacemaker, and I went in there. It was about a 30-minute procedure. Biggest thing right now is just being careful. I'm coaching a lot on the sidelines, trying not to get hit. I just can't get hit in the area where they did the procedure, but overall I'm feeling great.
Fred, one of the most humble guys to ever share a story with you guys. A few years ago, we played golf together at Olympia Fields, a PGA caliber golf course. He was coaching the Bulls, running late, trunk slammer, straight from his trunk to the first tee, goes birdie, par, birdie, and tried to convince everybody on the 4th tee that he was just lucky to hit 11 perfect shots.
I was very lucky, yes. It hasn't happened since.
True story. Eric, we got a chance to meet for the first time out at Terranea in May. Warning, don't try to work out next to this guy in the gym because you won't look good. You shared a story then that you ended up in almost the same location, a stone's throw from where you were when you got your very first job out of college.
Yeah, first job out of college was selling tickets for the L.A. Clippers, and I lived on 44th and Highland in Manhattan Beach, and now we're on 6th Street in Manhattan Beach. So kind of full circle, super cool for myself and our family.
Mike, you've been obviously very busy, you and your staff, in the offseason with the transfer portal, but it's always important to get some time to recharge the batteries. You know about keeping the pace when you've been in this business for as long as you have, and I understand you were able to recharge those batteries not far away in California as well a little bit this summer.
Out in Desert Island, dealing with the heat. It was awful hot. I'm talking about averaging around 110 a day. But my wife likes it out there a lot, so we spent about 3 weeks out there this summer.
You obviously did spend some time, you and your staff, in that portal. Talk about some of the amazing transfers you have coming in. Omar Ballo, Carlisle's on that list, Miles Rice, so many other guys. How were you able to do that? What's that process like now when it is so important to get into the portal and get players that can fit immediately into your program?
Well, we had no choice. I mean, I lost 3 players to the portal. I lost 2 seniors, and Khalil Ware was drafted to the Heat as a 15th pick in the draft. So, I mean, I had to go out along with my staff and start, really working to try to build our team back. And we were able to come west and get Big Ballo, as you mentioned, and Miles Rice and Kanan Carlisle. And then we were fortunate enough to get Goody to come back home, which he's a Bloomington kid. And then we got a freshman in Bryson Tucker, who kind of fell in our laps late. I had looked at him a couple of years ago when he was at IMG, and we were able to get him on board. So, I mean, we've built basically through the portal with 1 freshman, but it's been work in progress. Our summer program, I thought, went extremely well. And then we gave them a month off, and now we're back at official practicing. And it's been a good run so far. We just got to put it all together and see where it leads us.
Eric, no one was busier than you and your staff in the portal out of necessity. Obviously, give us a sense of the guys that came in and also how difficult it can be and what the challenge is when you're trying to build chemistry with so many guys who haven't played together before.
Yeah, I think from a chemistry standpoint, it's about what you can do in the 8-week off-season program. Every Friday we tried to do a non-basketball related activity, whether it was wiffle ball on the beach or boxing together as a group or spin class. We tried to do something outside of basketball and then follow that up with a meal of some sort. But then in the transfer portal, out of necessity, certainly with the way the roster was with one returning player, we had to go to the portal, and we're excited about a lot of guys. But a lot of guys that need to play with the chip on their shoulder. Obviously nobody on any of the Big Ten teams right now that were recognized with the top players, and we discussed that. We discussed where we were ranked preseason. And so I hope that our team, kind of has that chip on their shoulder from day one.
Fred, for you, the transfer portal story is interesting because you have a handful of guys who come from other Big Ten schools who really know this league. How much of an advantage could that be?
Well, I think it's important when you're putting your roster together. Last year we were the oldest team in the league, and we needed to replace a lot of really important pieces that we lost from a year ago, including Rink Mast, who unfortunately had a knee procedure and he will be out for the season. So for us to go out there and try to get that experience to replace Keisei Tominaga, Rink, who I talked about, Josiah Alec, who are great leaders for us as well as great players on the floor. And we accomplished, we did a pretty good job of that as far as I think we have 8 guys that are in their 4th year or more in college basketball. And when you have that experience, it gives you a chance. We have 2 freshmen that I really, really like, and I think they're going to be very good players. But we also have experience, and as you said, Rick, guys that have played in the league with Connor Esijan, with Gavin Griffiths, with a couple guys that played in the Pac-12 last year with Braxton Mia and with Burke. And, these guys are coming together, and, I think Muss hit it on the head as far as those 8 weeks, how important they are to build the chemistry in the summer. Back in our day when we were playing, it was October 15. You basically had 2 or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're playing games. So those 8 weeks in the summer, the 5 weeks in the fall, and then, the guys are already sick of you on the first official day of practice. But, that's all very important as far as building that very important chemistry.
You do have some terrific returnees back, Bryce, Juwan, and others, guys that got to taste the tournament last year. It's always hard to get to the tournament. Many coaches say it's tougher to get back for a second year. How do you kind of keep that momentum going that you built a year ago?
Well, and it's such a different experience, and, being on the big stage and all the coverage that you have. And we only really had of our active roster one guy that had played in the tournament. That was Juwan Gary when he played at Alabama. Now we've got a bunch of guys that have been there. So we've talked about this a lot as a group. The challenge now is not only getting back there, but it's winning in March. It's taking this program to where it's never been before. And our guys have been really good. I love the work ethic. I love the competitiveness. When you have a group of guys that play hard, you're going to have a chance.
Mike, you've been there. I know you'd like to get a little bit deeper into March this coming season. When you returned to your alma mater, I'm sure you had an idea of where you wanted the program to be at this point. How does that compare to where you feel like the program actually is?
I think we took a step backwards last year by not making the tournament, and that was kind of disappointing. But again, we got to move forward. The first 2 years, a lot of those guys hadn't been in the tournament for 5 years, and then they tasted it a little bit. At the end of the day, along with these guys, it's about winning Big Ten titles and winning national titles. That's why I came back, and I remember the good days back when I played, and some of the great years that Bob Knight had at Indiana that, it's been missing. And to be back and I'm able to, put my stamp on it, it's going to be great for me. I'm happy to be back, but we still got a long way to go as a ball club.
Eric, your career has been defined a little bit by change because you've coached at so many different places at so many different levels. How much can that help you in another year of change, not just for you and your program, but for the Big Ten, as for the first time ever, we see AT conference games, just 1-2 play because of that. Everything's new for everybody, including those teams that have been in the Big Ten for a long time.
Yeah, I think if you coach in the G League, you're used to change. And so right now it's change of roster. It's change with players receiving name, image, and likeness. It's change in the way that we're going to travel. And I think that along with both coaches, Coach Woodson and Coach Hoiberg, I think that there's a little bit of the NBA travel can come into play here with how you do shoot-arounds. When you travel West Coast to East Coast, we've had a lot of discussions with our staff, what we did when Golden State played in, say, Orlando on the first round of a travel day, and when do you actually do shoot-around? Do you not do shoot-around? So I think that some of the NBA lessons with travel can help. At least it's the hope. We've also we met with the LA Rams a couple weeks ago about how they travel when they go west to east. What do they do on that first night that they land, and how do they handle the morning before like a 1 o'clock kickoff? So it'll be a learning process for all of us, though, for sure, with the travel part.
So when coaches say we're only looking at the next game, in this scenario, you are actually looking at this as a whole to try to figure out the best way to deal with all the different things that approach you this season.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think that, the way you manage your team in November and December can have an effect on how you play in March. And obviously the goal for all of us is to have our teams playing, their best basketball in March. And a lot of that has to do with mental fatigue, physical fatigue, and then where you are with your bodies and minds come the end of the season. So certainly the way that you plan in November can have an effect.
I know we actually have to get there, but since Eric said end of the season, what do you think it's going to feel like at the end of the regular season to have gone through this league this season?
Yeah, it's going to be a grind. I mean, you add 4 unbelievable programs with great coaches, and it's going to be, the travel, to Muss's point, is going to be something that none of us have ever experienced at this level. The 3 of us, I think, have been fortunate to either have played or coached in the NBA, and what some of that travel is like. And I think we're set up in a pretty good spot in Nebraska. The West Coast grind, I don't think will be quite as much as it is for the East Coast schools. But at the same time, you really do have to prepare for it. One thing that I think do a really good job of is we have a sports scientist that monitors every practice, and we have a load progression that we really want to follow to try to be fresh when it matters most. In the last couple of years, we've had a very successful February and March record. So, just to really try to keep your guys going where you're playing your best basketball at the right time of the year.
And, Mike, it certainly helps when you have guys who have been through that grind before, like Trey, like Malik McKenzie experienced it and now expects some growth this year. What do you need from those guys specifically and those veterans who have been on this team to try to meld in all the newcomers?
We need them to lead, and make another jump. I thought Malik made a hell of a jump from his freshman year, and McKenzie, tremendous jump. And, Trey Galloway is who he is. He's been a leader since I've had him. Unfortunately, he had the knee surgery this past season, and he's worked his butt off this summer to get back. He's not fully covered, but he's getting there. So I'm going to need all 3 of those guys to lead, because we got some seniors, but we also have a bunch of young guys as well, too, that hadn't really experienced the Big Ten, like Miles Rice and Caden Carlisle and Tucker. So we're going to need those veteran guys to step up and lead our ball club.
Let's finish here, guys. On your campuses, obviously there's a lot of momentum right now with your football programs as well. Indiana's kind of surprising everybody. Mike, have you felt that vibe of your players talked about maybe getting the chance to go to Memorial Stadium and watch the Hoosier football team this year?
I'm loving it. I think Coach Signetti has done a hell of a job. I think he's put a great group of guys together. And, I mean, he's got running backs, he's got receivers, and he's got a hell of a quarterback. So I couldn't be more happier for him, because it's been a while, to see our programs, even in the top 25. And so you got to give him a lot of credit for that. So I'm waiting for Northwestern this week. We got them this week here at Northwestern, so it should be a pretty good ball game.
Eric, have you had the chance to spend much time with Lincoln? I know I'm sure you and Lindsay have shared thoughts.
Yeah, went to a couple practices, actually got some good drills that we've kind of taken some quarterback wide receiver drills that he used and have used it with a 5-shot drill, that they had a 5-passing drill with their quarterbacks. But there's nothing like USC sideline pregame. And the only thing that's been troublesome a little bit is we keep having recruits come in on weekends when our football team's playing on the road. And I keep wanting to go on a road football game. I'm like, stop with the recruiting stuff so we can go to a road football game and experience Big Ten football.
And Fred, I know you and Matt obviously talk a lot about what your respective programs are doing at any given moment.
Yeah, Coach Rule's doing a phenomenal job, and it's been so much fun. We had our 400th consecutive sellout in the last game. It's been sold out since 1962. So the passion and the energy right now around Nebraska football, it's been awesome to see.
Guys, we really appreciate the time. Fred Hoiberg, Eric Musselman, Mike Woodson, wish you and your teams the best of luck this coming season.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I will. We are getting set for a season like none other in the history of Big Ten men's basketball. Danny Sprinkle takes over at Washington and alongside 8 transfers leads the Huskies into the Big Ten. Minnesota starts its 4th season under Ben Johnson. Built some solid momentum last season, trying to build on that in 24-25. And, of course, what a year for Matt Painter and the Boilermakers, making a championship game appearance for the first time since 1969. Among those returning, preseason player of the year, Braden Smith. Back here in Rosemont at Big Ten Basketball Media Days presented by TIAA. Rick Pizzo now joined by the head coaches of those teams. Danny Sprinkle, Ben Johnson, and Matt Painter are with us. Danny, I want to catch up with you and how crazy life has been since you took this job. We spoke right after you took this job. You were living in a hotel and basically on the road, constantly recruiting. Then I think by the time we talked in the summer, you and the rest of your staff had gotten kind of a frat house type deal together where you all lived together and were working. Has everybody settled in now with families in town?
We have. We actually me, my assistants all found new places to stay. But we called it the frat house. We got the job. We were in the hotel for about 7 days. And then a good friend of mine, Will Dissly, who actually played for the Seahawks and was a UW alum. Now he's with the Chargers. He had his house there. So he was kind enough to let us stay there for a couple months until we got settled. But it took about 3 months.
I'm guessing you treated it a little bit better, kept it a little bit cleaner than the actual frat houses on campus?
We did. There wasn't too many parties. There wasn't nothing. There actually wasn't any. And,
just to be clear.
Exactly. But you do have Tony Bland waking up at 5:30 a.m. talking, being loud on the phone, but it was great.
Matt, it was something of a party for you and your program, obviously, to reach the national title game. Came up 1 win short of the ultimate, but it had been so long for Purdue fans in this program to get there. What was the offseason and the summer like for you and your guys to be able to celebrate that a little with also getting ready for this coming year?
Well, I think the biggest piece was just not being in the portal. You know, for us, we didn't have anybody leave to where we had to go into the portal. And so after you know what people go through, especially something like Danny, when you take over a job and what that entails and the time that then you have to segue through the spring portal into recruiting in the summer. And you never stop. Like, he hasn't come up for air. And that's just different than where you are when you're going into your 20th season. And now we're able to develop. Now we're able to know the guys on our team. We're not trying to get adjusted outside of our freshmen that are brand new. So we had a great summer, just trying to stay on edge and be better next year.
For those who followed Purdue basketball, Big Ten basketball, college basketball as a whole, one of the great parts of that run to the Final Four was seeing Coach Katie there, enjoying it. We know he had a recent health scare. What can you tell us? Have you spoken with him lately?
Yeah, he's great. He's great. He just had a little bit like a mini stroke, and he popped right out of it and wanted to know who's winning the USC-Michigan football game. So, and he had the teams right. But no, he's great. He's going to try to get by to a practice next week.
That's great to hear. Ben, we got to watch your team take some serious steps last year. I know for you and your staff, it was probably really enjoyable to be able to watch a year where you didn't have to battle through so many injuries and key guys were actually able to play the minutes that you wanted them to play. How do you assess the growth that you saw from your team last season?
No, definitely. I think we took the necessary steps that we needed to in our third year. Not only just non-conference wise and handling business, but also in conference by getting 9 wins. You look at the history of our program. I think since 1990, we've won 10 games twice in that time period. And so for us to get 9 last year, hopefully builds confidence to our guys. And like everybody else, we want to keep the momentum going. And now we've established kind of a winning mentality and a winning culture, and we got to find ways to build on that.
What are the ways to build on that?
Yeah, I think it's just it's viewing yourself as just that. As crazy as that sounds, every day winning habits. Like, what does that look like? And now they know, and there's expectation, and we have returners that are back that went through that and knew the work that put into winning 19 games in postseason, winning 9 games in a really tough league, so they can be role models for the new guys about what it takes every day to be a total winner.
Matt, the challenge for your team is a little bit different. The challenge of following up that kind of run. kind of conversation have you had with the guys? Have the guys had amongst themselves about that particular challenge?
Yeah, obviously, trying to win 3 Big Ten championships in a row and just keep that carrot in front of us. But, we have 3 starters back from a Final Four team. We have 5 freshmen. We have a lot of guys with experience outside of those 3 starters. So just blending in those 5 freshmen more than anything, just understanding what we do and how we do it. It takes a little bit of time. But no, we're excited about it. We're excited about this group, but we also know that, it's going to be very hard. And that's the one thing when you play a challenging schedule like we have, in non-conference, that you got to get yourself prepared because it is such a bear when you get to Big Ten play.
Danny, the job is still fairly new. The roster's new. The conference is new for Washington. For a coaching staff, what's the biggest challenge in getting guys ready for opening day when everything seems so new?
Yeah, I think organizing everything in the program, getting them ready, from like they talked about, the daily habits, how we compete, how you have to compete, and the physicality of the Big Ten, from the weight room to the nutrition to, every single thing that you do that day impacts that first game that you're going to have to play. And so getting my staff, who a lot of them are brand new, getting them organized into how I operate and how I want our program to operate on a daily basis, and then for that to trickle down to the strength coach, to the nutritionist, to the whole team, is probably the most important thing.
How do you want to set and sell the expectations to your players so they know what is expected of them from the jump?
Yeah, we have our non-negotiables every day in practice. And, me and my staff, we have to be relentless on those, from effort to energy to being a great teammate to being physical in every drill. And, it trickles down to their daily life, but that's just something we have to be relentless on.
Ben, when you look about and you see Danny's team, the 3 other West Coast additions, obviously Danny's had nothing but success at the places that he's coached. Eric Musselman's been everywhere. Mick, Cronin, Dana Altman, long-time success. How much tougher does that make a trip around this league?
Yeah, no, definitely didn't do us any favors, when we added these programs. But, if you're a competitor, you want to be in the best league possible. And I think top to bottom, we're definitely in that. And so it's getting your team to understand the urgency that you have to have now. It's going to be more of a grind probably than ever. You had a little bit of different travel now, but the excitement of adding, these 4 programs, I think heightens the competition for everybody. And so, we're looking forward to it.
Matt, it's obviously a challenge, but also a great opportunity, as you mentioned, the potential to win 3 straight regular season titles. What do you think it will be like to get through this 18-game schedule when you add in the travel, you add in the new teams and everything that basically every program, not just yours, is trying to figure out?
I think more than anything, you have to have enough pieces, but you also have to be a little bit lucky. You have to stay healthy. You got to get a break. Hopefully you can make your own breaks, but you got to be able to get a break. And right now, the way the schedule goes, like we all look at it, and there's a grind somewhere to where you're playing 5 or 6 games in 17 days or something crazy where you don't have a day off. We have a stretch for 2.5 weeks where we don't have a day off in the Big Ten play. Like, how do we come out of that? Like, when you look at it, you're like, do you split that? Do you win it all? Do you lose them all? Like, you really don't know. Like, you have mixed feelings. But, like, when you look at the media and how they rank people and how they look at people, like, I don't know how you would go about it with so much change from the portal to a new job to add in the 4 teams. It's just it's a crapshoot. So it's good that people pick you to win your league, but it really means nothing. If you're there in the first week of March, then it does mean something.
Well, I know something that does mean a lot for you is to have Braden Smith back. He's your preseason player of the year. Fletcher as well in the backcourt, other pieces. And there's a lot of talk that with Zach gone, what will Purdue do? I know you have a couple of big guys, but it's not as if you haven't been more perimeter-based in the past. The great run with Carson Edwards a few years ago. How different stylistically do you think you'll look?
Well, he's always had the basketball in his hands, even when Zach was there. So when we play out of the post, we play through ball screens and post up a lot. And so he can really manipulate the defense with his ability to see the court and to be able to pass and to make plays and to make shots. But he's also someone who defers to others at times, and we need him just to be more aggressive. But Fletcher Lawyer, same thing, just a winner, knows how to play, tough, hard-nosed, make shots. Those guys will have more of a responsibility. And then I think Trey Kaufman-Wren will really step into where he'll be one of the best big guys in our league.
Ben, the players that are here with you obviously will be huge for you this year. They're energy guys. They're kind of mismatch guys in Dawson's case as well. What do you need from those 2 guys specifically this year in terms of both leadership and production?
I think consistency is the big thing, and that's day in and day out. I think obviously a guy like Dawson that's got all the accolades, that's been through it. Can you elevate everybody else's play to your level and your standards, and that starts in practice. And then also, can you be almost a coach in the locker room? We got a bunch of new guys. Can you explain and tell them, what this grind is like? Parker Fox, again, a guy that came on the scene after not playing for 2 years, had a really good first year back. Can you counter that? Can you be a little bit better? And then I thought Mike Mitchell, a guy that came in and was really productive. You look across the board with just his numbers, can really shoot it. Where can you take it? Can you be greedy? Can you take another step? But all those guys have been in our system. And so the leadership standpoint and getting those guys to get everybody else on board and just understand the urgency that you have to have if you want to give yourself a chance every single day.
Folks that just watch Parker for a second are blown away by his energy and the enthusiasm, the kind of spark that he brings. Is his skill set, though, maybe a little bit underrated?
Yeah, I think it is. I think, he's a guy, he's such a thinker. And he really keeps our offense moving. When we're in our flow game, he's a guy that just the music doesn't stop. He's able to get the ball to a second and third side, and that becomes contagious. So just his IQ, his feel, he's crafty. He's also obviously very athletic, and he plays with a ton of energy. But I do think his skill set is a little undervalued, but it's something that we know, really helps us, especially offensively. But then just the urgency that he has, when I think he's 7th year now. You've been around it. He knows this is his last go-round, and that was one thing we tried to do in the portal is like if you can find a bunch of guys where this is their last go-round, the urgency's there every day. It creates a competitive environment.
I love it. 7th year, today's day and age of college sports, right? Danny, the transfer portal, obviously today's day and age of college sports as well. Necessity for you coming into a new program. Great Osabor has great credentials, a guy well. Others maybe that you got out of the transfer portal that can help as well are who?
Yeah, I think Tyler Harris, a transfer from University of Portland. He's a 6'8" wing. He can really score the basketball. He can score it. He can shoot it. He can drive it. And he's just kind of a mismatch with his size. Another kid, Makai Mason from Rice, who's a very talented offensive player who we're going to need to be really good. And another kid that's been hurt the last 2 years that Washington had, Frank Kepnang, a big 6'11", shot blocking big, but he's really worked on his offensive game. He didn't practice all summer, but he's really getting rolling now, and I think those three could really help us.
Let's finish here. As you guys do get rolling here and get into practice full-time, get the guys really going, what's Washington's biggest focus before opening night?
Being physical and playing together. When you bring 13 pretty much brand-new players together, everybody's trying to show how good they are, especially the transfers, and now they got to start playing together. They got to play for one another. They got to get teammates a shot, and they got to understand it's not about them. If we want to be successful, we're going to need all 13 of those guys because you need depth in the Big Ten.
Ben, what will be your biggest priorities?
Same thing, getting everybody on the same page, offensively, defensively, understanding your system, getting guys comfortable, kind of developing roles, and then hopefully through competition, people start separating themselves a little bit.
Matt?
For us, it's about the same thing, just in terms of, we have 5 freshmen, so it's a little bit different, just kind of blending those guys in, and the roles that Ben mentioned are so important. But it's the pillars of basketball, like take care of the basketball and rebound. Like you can go through and talk about a lot of different things, but if you're great at those 2 things, you're going to be pretty successful.
Matt Painter, Ben Johnson, Danny Sprinkle, guys, wish you and your programs the best of luck this coming season. Really appreciate the time here at Media Days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We turn our attention now to Iowa, Ohio State, and Northwestern. Hawkeyes set to start year number 15 under Fran McCaffery, Peyton Sanford, Owen Freeman among those expected to have big years coming up. Jake Diebler takes over first year as the permanent head coach in Columbus. Chris Collins led Northwestern to back-to-back NCAA tournaments for the first time ever. Brooks Barnheiser, Ty Berry among those returning. Of course, Boo Buie off to greater heights. And with that, welcoming the head coaches of those teams, Fran McCaffery, Jake Diebler, Chris Collins, kind enough to join us. Jake, I want to start with you because it was an interesting summer in the Diebler household. Welcomed a 4th to your family, 4 under 6 now?
4 under 6.
9 pounds, 9 ounces, I understand. Is Ryan Day in the living room recruiting already?
I'm trying to keep him. I just want one kid to play basketball. That's just, if I could get what he had, with all his kids playing basketball, I'd be in great shape. But the best coach in my house is my wife, without question.
How has the summer been? Is anybody getting any sleep these days?
It's been good. It's been good. By number 4, you're used to not sleeping as much. But, no, we're blessed. Everybody's healthy. And our kids are having a great time. They've enjoyed being around the team and spending some time in the gym.
Fran, as Jake alluded to, you had the opportunity for a long time to coach your sons, first Connor, then Connor and Patrick together, then Patrick. Now Patrick's off to Butler. You have a high school senior, which means for the first time in a long time, you're coaching on the sidelines without a son. First, how special was that? How much will you miss it this year?
I'll miss it quite a bit. I really enjoyed it. I think the perception is that it's more stressful than it really is. They were great. They both were incredible contributors to winning teams. They were great teammates. They worked hard, and they put winning ahead of anything else. And it was just great to see them every day, and I'm going to miss it quite a bit.
Chris, you're kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum as Jake, right? Your youngest, your daughter, just went off to college this year, so you and your wife are empty nesters. A little bit too quiet right now in the house?
It's a little different. I was most worried about Mom because all these guys will attest. Our wives are the rocks of the family. When you're in a coaching household and the things we have to do, the demands on us, the time, it's got to be a family deal. And I was worried about Mom a little bit, but she's great. She's great. She said, this is a little better than I thought it was going to be. So it's good. My daughter, she said, I'm going to miss going to the games, but I said going to Cameron Indoor and being a Cameron Crazy isn't a good backup, for what she's got ahead. So just like Franny, my son's a senior, he's a manager. So, we're all part of basketball families. Jake's dad was a coach, and when you get that time, I know Franny had it. Jake talked about hopefully potentially having my son. He's a senior. It's going to be a little sad not getting to see him every day in the gym. It's been a lot of fun.
So your daughter goes off to college, and then as we turn it to basketball, one of the best players in Northwestern history finishes his career. We'll get to the players who returned this year, but as you look back on what Boo did for you, what do you hope the legacy is that he'll ultimately have at NU?
Just as a winner, and as someone who, came in his freshman year, we went 3-17 in the league. So you look at the progression of someone in a day and age where people run from that now, and he stayed the course. He got better every year, and his junior and senior year to be a first-team all-league guy, all-time leading scorer in school history, only guy to take a Northwestern team to 2 NCAA tournaments. How can you leave a better legacy than that? Just an incredibly special player in our program.
Yeah, and leading to a couple of NCAA tournaments. The postseason and the end of the season really special for you, Jake, last year. You get an opportunity that you probably didn't expect. This team buys in. You go on a phenomenal run. First of all, what was that like for you and your staff to watch, and how do you continue that momentum as you start your first full season as a staff?
Yeah, I think it was hard. There's no question. But the focus, for me personally and for my family and then for our staff was just to serve our players as well as we possibly could. And I think our players appreciated that. And then there were some things that, were validated for me personally during that process, such as how important player relationships are. The impact playing with pace and urgency can have. So that gave me some confidence moving forward as we've planned out and mapped out what this team's going to look like. But as far as momentum goes, there's so much newness, new staff, a lot of new pieces on the roster. I'm just really excited about what we've been able to accomplish so far this offseason, heading into the final few weeks.
Well, I know these guys could probably attest to this, right? How different it is when it's yours and you're in charge of not just position groups or scouting, but you're in charge of everything. So how different has that felt to you this offseason?
It's been different. I have a great appreciation for guys who've been doing this, a long time, and just the mental conditioning required. I think that's something as an assistant coach, you felt like you worked extremely hard and you were always on, but it's different when you're a head coach, and you just don't know until you have to do it. So ton of respect for, in our league, there's so many head coaches who've been doing it for a long time. Ton of respect for them because there's a lot that goes into it.
Fran, you've been at this a long time. I've known you in your coaching profession since you were at UNC Greensboro a couple of decades ago, and then on to Siena, and then Iowa as well. How different does this year as a whole feel when you look at the additions of the 4 new West Coast schools and everything that's kind of changing in college basketball and college sports?
Well, it's completely different, and I've been doing it a long time, as you pointed out, Rick. And it's something that I love to do. It's part of who I am. It's part of what my family is. They're all players and been around it. My wife was. But it's different. There's more teams in the league. Each team's got a ton of new players. Recruiting is completely different as we enter into the new world of the portal and NIL. guys weren't free agents for the longest time, and now they are. So, you go back to the player relationship side. That's what it comes down to, being able to keep the guys you have as best you can and communicate with them, be positive with them, help them get better. You look at a guy like Boo that Chris was just talking about. I mean, what a fabulous career. But there were some bumps in the road in the first year, and he fought through it, and he left a lasting impact. And that's what you want your guys to do, and that's what we encourage. And, I look at a guy like Peyton. He could have gone to the NBA, left his name in the draft, probably would have been a second-round pick, probably would have had a two-way contract offer. I know he had more than one on the table. Wanted to come back and lead this team and be part of the culture that we've built, and that says a lot about who he is.
Let's get more into your roster, starting with Peyton, also with Owen Freeman, a guy who last year, I think at one point they were going to rename the Big Ten Freshman of the Week award the Owen Freeman Award because he won it each and every week. What do you expect from those two guys, and how much more development and growth can each of them have this season?
Well, you look at Peyton, and it's his team. He's the leader, and that's what he came back to do, as I just mentioned. Owen, he was just a freshman, and he was playing really well. He got in foul trouble a little bit, but he grew and he learned. He's an incredibly hard worker. He's changed his body a little bit. He's stronger. He's doing more off the bounce, shooting the ball outside more. And you're seeing, I'm seeing a much more complete player, and that's by design. That's what he wanted to do. That's what we wanted for him. But we got some other guys too. Josh Dix, I thought, last year really established himself as one of the better players in our league. Led the league in offensive efficiency, which is not easy to do in this league. Incredible player, plays both ends, so we're counting on him to do a lot of things as well.
Chris, as I promised, yes, we talked about Boo and the player that's gone, but I think folks may be surprised to look at how much of your production is back, even with Boo's departure, whether it's Nick, whether it's Brooks, Ty. You have a ton of guys with experience who have been through this grind before. How much do you lean on them to make sure that everybody else is on the page that you want them to be on?
Yeah, I think you lean on it a lot. Having continuity, having a culture. You talk about guys that have been a part of now 2 top 4 finishes in the league, 2 NCAA tournaments, advancing in the NCAA tournament. A guy like Brooks Barnheiser, an all-league caliber player who's now a senior, that they're ready to step up, as older guys, and they set the tone every day. The coaches are one thing, but when the players come to the gym and they set the tone for how you practice, the seriousness, it helps us as coaches having those veteran players. And I know they're anxious. I mean, as great a player that Boo was, I think they know coming into the year it's going to be, what can you guys do without him on the floor? I think that's been a motivating force for this core group to say, no, we're a program now, and great players move on, but it's time for other guys to step up and see if we can stay competitive in a really tough league.
Brooks is one of those guys who does a little bit of everything well. We saw Nick Martinelli become that player at points last year. What specifically do you need from those two guys who sometimes kind of mirror each other with the different strong hand?
Yeah, it's great about those two guys. I mean, they're kind of like old school, just ball players. They don't really have positions. They're tough. They're competitive. It doesn't look pretty all the time, but they win and they get stuff done, and they set the tone for the rest of the team. They both have good size. Their skill sets. They can shoot. They can handle. They can pass. It allows us to be a little creative, kind of moving them around the floor and finding ways to have them be successful. And then with Ty Berry and Matt Nicholson, you have 4 guys that have really been a part of a lot of Big Ten games. So we're really going to have to lean on their veteran leadership as we head into this year.
Jake, Chris just used the term tough, talking about competitiveness. You talk about Bruce and a guy who may be as tough and competitive as anybody in this league. How much is he simply the heartbeat of what your team is?
Without question. And I say this about Bruce. Bruce isn't an everyday guy. He's an every rep guy. Every single day in practice. Doesn't matter the drill. If you're going live, if you're not going live, he goes hard every time. And to have that in your program, there's so much value around that. And he sets the standard for us of what it means to work. And so we're going to lean on that. And I've been most impressed. His voice, has been really powerful for us. And he's gotten better and better at using it. So we're going to lean on his leadership, certainly.
What have he and the other veterans returning to this team done for you in terms of making sure that everybody is buying in? As Fran pointed out, it's a different era. Every team is going to have chemistry, if not issues. chemistry issues to deal with to make sure that you get on the same page before the year starts?
Well, I think it's really important. We've been intentional about who we've invited into our family, and we have a group of great guys. Now we have to build that chemistry in between the lines. The chemistry for us is there off the court. We got to build it between the lines. And listen, I think we may not have veterans, Ohio State veterans, a lot of them, but we have some college basketball veterans. And so we're going to lean on that experience. It's been very good for us in practice. The way that the guys who have years of experience in college basketball, how they're communicating to those who don't, has been fun to watch and great to see.
Fran, I've asked all the coaches that have sat up here what they think it's going to feel like come March when you're getting ready for the Big Ten tournament and you look back on what this 18-game grind inside this league with the additional 4 teams with the travel will actually feel like.
I think it'll benefit us in the long run. The competition, the travel, we're kind of used to that. Okay, we got to go to the West Coast. I mean, maybe it's a little easier for us. We're in the middle, but it's just part of what college basketball is right now. You know, we're chartering, so it's not really that difficult from that standpoint. From a fatigue standpoint, we're smart with how we, look at practice and time commitment, and having the exposure to play against those kinds of teams now on a regular basis. That's what happens in the NCAA tournament. So we'll be better prepared, I think.
And the opportunity, Chris, for every team, at least every couple of years, depending on where the home and away schedule sends you, to play in places like Pauley Pavilion and other arenas that some of these Big Ten players have never seen before and certainly never played in before.
Yeah, like Fran said, I think ultimately it's going to make the league even better. I know the players are excited. Go to some venues maybe you haven't played in before. Honestly, you wish you could kind of play everywhere. It's impossible now with the amount of teams, but the league is so good. I mean, you come into the league, everyone's like, who do you think is going to be good? My answer is everyone. I mean, you look at the level of coaches in this league, the programs, the traditions, the fan bases. I think it's never been more open, than it is this year, and it makes it fun to be a part of a league like that. Probably gives us a little less sleep and makes our hair a little bit more gray. Look at Jake right now. I want to look at him. I'm in year 12. I look like him 10 years ago.
This is what I have to look forward to.
See,
I like
maybe you won't have as much receding, but it's going to get gray a little bit quicker. But it's awesome to be a part of this league. You want to test yourself against the best, and I know our guys are looking forward to it.
Genetics plus the new Big Ten. There's nothing you could do about it.
Hey, you got no chance.
Chris Collins, Jake Diebler, Fran McCaffery, guys, really appreciate the time. Best of luck to you and your programs this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Rick.